What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy Royale YouTube channel. I am your host, as always, Kevin Coleman at DuBois_22, and we are back with another edition on the channel, and we are doing something a little different on this one. So we are doing a Devy Mock Draft, and so what we're looking at here is I wanted to get together a bunch of guys. So I got a bunch of guys, and Devy analysts and Devy people, and just people that play in leagues, so kind of a mix of both. And we did a Devy mock draft, and we said, okay, what are the values right now? So I think the biggest question mark out there in Devy leagues is like, okay, when the season starts, how do the values shift? So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through the 3 rounds. So we did a 3-round mock, and we have a ton of guys in here that I respect, that I think are good people, good analysts, and just good Devy minds. So this gives you a proper value of like where guys are at right now. Now, what can Devy mock drafts do? One, shows you player values, and it shows you kind of how player values do. Player values are very hard to come by, especially in Devy and C2C right now. So if you can see where people are valuing certain players, it allows for trades. It allows for, okay, those are where those guys are at. Also, what I'm going to do at the end is after I go through the 3 rounds, talking about my favorite picks, talk about picks that I liked, where they're at, I'm going to show you a mock that we did in July for 3 rounds and show you how different these things go and how drastic Devy drafts can change in value. So I wanted to make sure I did that as well. So first, let's look at the first round here. So first round, we have Bijan Robinson 101. And this is so just the parameters of this mock, so you know, just to give super flex, Devy, PPR, not tight end premium. Okay. So we're just looking straight up. All right. Where do you go? Okay. So we have Bijan at the 101. We have CJ Stroud at the 102. Travion Henderson at the 103. Bryce Young at the 104. Caleb Williams at the 105. 106 is Marvin Harrison Jr. Big shoot up for him. 107, Zach Evans. 108 is Jackson Smith-Njigba. 109 is Nicholas Singleton. 110 is Jahmyr Gibbs. 111 is Quinn Ewers. And Kayshon Boutte is going at the 112. So when we're looking at just these guys in terms of their value and where they're at, this is the first round, and not a ton of changes. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but just I think this is pretty valuable on the board. I would say the 2 guys that are rising up the fastest is Caleb Williams and Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. So Caleb Williams was by Jason Stein from Dynasty Nerds. Marvin Harrison Jr., Marcus Harvey, he grabbed him there. I thought that was an interesting pick. I like that. When you look at across the board, though, I thought maybe the best value in this, you could say Kayshon Boutte is being the best value because he was going so high earlier in the years at 112, and I do like that. But there are some question marks about that. For me personally, like I loved Eric Frazier's pick here of Jahmyr Gibbs at the 110. We've talked about Gibbs on the show. We said, hey, he's got to learn how to we need to see him actually produce on the field, be a runner. I think that was one big thing in the SEC that we haven't seen yet, right? So in those first 4 games, we really had saw it. 93 yards, 22 yards, 36 yards, 21 yards. And then against Arkansas, this kid just bounced out. He had 206 yards and 2 touchdowns. Absolutely phenomenal performance for Jahmyr Gibbs against Arkansas. So I think when you're looking at value for Gibbs, I think if you look here where he was going, I mean, that's pretty good value for a kid that's probably going to get pretty good draft capital, is going to have very, very fantasy production. And in Devy, I always get this question a lot. Like you drafted Nicholas Singleton at the 109. You're going to have to wait for Singleton for 2 more years now. Now, could he be the running back 1 in that class? Yeah, he probably is. Now you're going to have to wait, right? So is your Devy league going to last? There's a lot of question marks about that. Is there going to be production there? You can use Singleton in trade assets. That's fine. But Gibbs gives you the upside next year. He's going to be in the league. He's going to produce. So I think those are the question marks when you come into Devy. Like, what are you going to do? Make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have a solid plan when you're drafting. Like, where am I going to draft these guys? Solid production. You have to look at your NFL team roster and say, where do they fit? If Singleton is at the 109, but you have a win now team and you need that piece to put you over the top, Gibbs could be that piece, right? If you wait for Singleton, by the time you get there, your dynasty team could be aged out, and then Singleton doesn't help. So I think those all come into play here. But I love the picks, but I think Gibbs, man, I think that's good value for him. I think that he's going to be, he's that Kamara type running back that everybody kind of mentions here. And if you continue to produce on the ground, he's going to shoot up boards. Next round, second round here, we got Raheem Sanders at the 201. Jordan Addison at the 202. 203 is Xavier Worthy. 204 is Brock Bowers. 205 is Braylon Allen. 206 is Emeka Egbuka. 207 is Troy Franklin. 208 is Sean Tucker. 209, Will Shipley. 210 is Quentin Johnston. Big value drop for Quentin Johnston. We're going to look at that. Josh Downs, 211, and 212 is Tank Bigsby. I like all these picks are kind of around the board. You're going to see Brock Bowers being the first tight end off the board. Raheem Sanders is shooting up draft boards right now. So having him go Butte and Sanders, Proton from NBC Sports, you got to love that. Jordan Addison's a great pick. We're going to talk about it here in a minute. Just looking at the board overall, like Emeka is one of those kids that we've talked about on the Patreon. We just did a special episode on this. That kid, Emeka Egbuka, is killing it right now. All the weighted dominator rating, he's number one in college football right now, ahead of all those guys in that class, ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr., ahead of Ja'Cory Brooks, ahead of all these guys that kind of Xavier Worthy's ahead of him. So when you're looking at Emeka with Jackson Smith being out, he's definitely taking that next step, and you have to love that for a kid like that. My guy, Troy Franklin, I'm going to stand Troy Franklin forever. I think the 207 is a very good pick for them because I think he has value upside. I think Troy is going to be one of those guys that we talk about, be like, wow, he's going to test well. He's going to have that. Sean Tucker's an interesting one, so he dropped down a little bit. I think there's some concerns about Sean Tucker from an NFL profile perspective. I like Will Shipley. I think he should have been drafted a little higher, so that is a really good pick. I think that's a good value pick there for Bo. And then let's just get into my guy that I think was a great pick here. I mean, at the 202, I thought he was going to go in the first round as Jordan Addison. I mean, Jordan Addison's had a really good year. Obviously, last year's Blendikoff Award winner for Pittsburgh, and what we saw there, he had 1,500 yards, 17 touchdowns last year. But this year is no slouch. He has 442 yards and 6 touchdowns already. You just saw the last game against Arizona State at 105 yards and 8 receptions. He is shooting up boards. We did an entire profile on him for our Patreon. So what we talked about is Christian did an all-22 breakdown, a 20-minute all-22 breakdown, and then me and Jay Stein did an entire analytical profile breakdown of him. And it's going to be hard for me not to put him as a first-round draft capital. So if he gets first-round draft capital, he should be a first-round Devy pick. That's just in my opinion where he's going to be going. I know he's small. He's on the smaller side, but the production's just there, and you can't stay away from that production. He's been absolutely phenomenal there. So I think that's a really good pick in that 202 range where he went. Craig grabbed him, Roto Heat Craig, so good pick there. I think that's a very good value pick of where you're at. So this is that second round again, just kind of where those guys are at. Very good picks. Braylon Allen again. So this is like I almost to say the round of the 24 class, right? This is really there. You got Raheem in there and those other guys, Jordan. But like a lot of those younger guys were like, all right, where are these guys going to be? All right, third round. So let's take a look here. This is where you start getting some interesting values. Julian Fleming, 301. Haven't seen Julian Fleming's name in a long time, but he is playing well for Ohio State right now. So that's an interesting pick. Luther Burden, he's the Missouri tag next to him. He probably won't be in Missouri next year. 302. 303 is Jackson Dart. Man, he has fallen down the boards. I think Matt even talked about after you picked him after the game this week, and he said, wish I could have that pick back and not draft him. Jackson Dart's one of these Devy fallers, so we're going to talk about that. Michael Mayer, tight end from Notre Dame. Interesting that he went a full round behind Brock Bowers now. So it literally a full round. So that's, I think, one area to watch. Is Brock that much better than Michael Mayer? Maybe. Another high riser, Drake May, quarterback in North Carolina. Drake May has had an absolute phenomenal year. We're going to talk about that pick, so I'll leave it there. But that was by Jay Stein. Next one, Bo Collins, Clemson guy. We like that. Cedric Tillman. J.J. McCarthy is in there. I love J.J. sneaking in there. Marvin Mims, Kenny McIntosh, I think is one of those guys that like definitely is rising up the boards. We haven't seen that. Blake Corum, Michigan guy, and Barian Brown. Great pick here from Froton here. Barian Brown from Kentucky. Very hotly sought after true freshman that's playing very well. But I think the pick that we got is Drake May, man. I think Drake May, when you're looking at what he's been able to do this year, just producing, 6'4", 220. He's got the frame, 115 for 165, almost 1,600 yards. 69% completion percentage, and he's gotten better each game. He really has. Even Virginia Tech, he was at 72. 19 touchdowns and 1 interception. That is just producing, right? Okay. Rushing wise, he still has 255 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns, so he's there. Love his QBR, love his QB rating, everything that's going. Drake May is rising up boards. I mean, when you're looking at rankings, so we're talking about like that class, the 24 class, I think some people will have Drake May ahead of Quinn Ewers. I think there's going to be people out there that do that. So I think if you get this kid in the third round as compared to where Quinn was going in the first still, I think that's a good value. And especially with quarterbacks, right? We don't know about quarterbacks. We miss on quarterbacks all the time in this space. So if you can get a stud running back or wide receiver in the first and second round, and then you get like a Drake May in the third, that's value. And I like that. I think that was a very good play. Now, let's take a look real fast. So if we're just talking about this, I want to show you guys. So just the difference in each year. So this is the October Devy mock that we just did. This is one we did in July. So you're going to see some some names out there pretty close. You'll see that Quentin Johnson at the 109. That's pretty much the only one if you see there. So this is the difference. You see here, we see it in October, and then we're going to see it here. So we're going to see a lot more younger players jump in there, right? We're looking at, hey, where's Caleb Williams at? Caleb Williams isn't in there. Where is Marvin Harrison Jr.? Not in there, right? Then if we look at the second round, so this is the second round in October, going through here, kind of like looking out where's everybody at. Here was the second round in July. So again, Nicholas Singleton was a second round pick in July. Braylon Allen was probably actually kind of stayed the same. Donovan Edwards has not been picked in the first 3 rounds now. We've seen that. Marvin Harrison bumped up. Brock Bowers bumped up. Emeka Ibuka bumped up. So when we're looking at both, and then we see Tank drop down, there's a little bit of a difference. Caleb Williams has definitely gone up. So if you were drafted Caleb Williams in the second round in July, you're very happy right now because your return on investment is definitely higher. Then in the third round, where it gets a little crazy out there, here's the third round for us in October. Here was the third round in July. Jadon Blue, who came in smaller than everybody thought. Jermaine Burton has fallen off the cliff. Ja'Cory Brooks has had a tough start to the year. Sean Tucker's value has gone up. Raheem Jarrett plummeted. Marvin Mims, kind of the same. Kamar Wheaton plummeted. Blake Corum, kind of the same. Parker Washington plummeted. Raheem Sanders jumped up, right? Evan Stewart, we don't know what's going on in Texas A&M. Bo Collins went up. So when you're looking at just overall, when you look at both those areas, and if you stopped it, that's how fast Devy values change. And this is why you have to be very on it where those values are going to be from moving forward. And you have to very dictate it and use those value shifts and those value changes to help you win your leagues and to also have that Devy value. So I appreciate you, all of you that joined it. If you ever want to get into one of those Devy mocks, find me on Twitter, DM me, and I'll put you on the list and say, hey, let's do it. And we'll do it just like this. So just to go through the mock real quick, and then we'll get out of here. You got this, your first round, our second round, and our third round. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know how we can help you. Join the Patreon, $3 a month, special podcast. We just did a 2024 mock, first round mock only for our Patreon members. Next week, we're going to be doing second and third, diving really deep in the 24 class. So if you want to know what those picks look like, get into that Patreon, $3 a month. You can find it underneath on the link below. We appreciate you guys. Until next time, see you later.